Hey, everybody. Hey, listen, before I get to today's interview, I want to announce something that we've never done before. We are offering our 2-day foundation seminar on a live stream. Never done that before. Now, it's a $2,500 per person live event. There'll be people attending this, but for the first time ever, we're going to be doing it in our new live stream studio. And instead of having to charge you full price, it's going to be a ridiculous no-brainer price, but you need to take advantage of it right away because I'm going to want your feedback on the live stream and see what it is. But it's a 2-day event. Again, retails for $2,500. You're going to get it for just a no-brainer price. Look at the link below and check it out because we've got about 50 slots left right now, but I wanted to put it out to my YouTube people. Okay, today's interview, I am really excited about this one. It's one of my friends from the private military contractor world. He's former special operations. He has a combined 30-year history working with just about everybody, just about everywhere. Probably one of the most competent individuals I've met in this field. And we've been wanting to get together because he recently got back from the Ukraine, and I wanted him to share some of the information that he does, in this interview. Also, we're going over fantastic, firearms training and what to do and what's important and why it's important. John is so clear on why it's so important for you to make sure that you are your first responder. He says it in a very unique way. Now, one thing I wanted to say is towards the end of the interview, John and I talk about law enforcement response and recently some of the failures in the law enforcement community. And John just wanted me to make sure that everybody understands this is not a criticism of law enforcement on the totality. It was there. He's very pro law enforcement. He's worked with a lot of great law enforcement groups. And it's just a very short statement. But we wanted to be clear that, hey, listen, everybody knows that we are very pro law enforcement, but we're also pro making sure that you got good training and that you actually execute your training. So, without further ado, John Nettles. John, thanks. We finally got a chance to hook up, man. You've been quite busy running around with everything that's going on in the world. Maybe we could start off with that. I mean, obviously, Ukraine's on top of everybody's mind. You have a lot of folks that you know over there. You've been getting some really good intel and, from the PMC world. What's your assessment of what is really happening over there as far as, we're being told, a lot of unicorns and hearts about the Ukrainians and where we're at. What are you seeing on the ground? What are people saying?
Well, first, thanks for having me. For the Ukraine side of the house, we were there for about 6 weeks right at the beginning. Our primary job was to go over, we got contracted to go over and rescue about 180 folks. It ended up being, 180 folks plus 40 orphans and some other people. And then we got access to the entire country through some of our contacts that we worked with in the past that are Ukrainian government folks. I'll put it that way. So what we've seen on the ground initially was, well, let me back up. I was contacted by some folks out of the Ukrainian government back in January to go, hey, can you possibly help us? So we put something together for them and said, hey, we can help you with your training and advising your military and your locals as a resistance force. About a month before the Russians invaded, we were supposed to meet in a third party country and have a discussion with them. And they said, we're not interested anymore because we don't think the Russians will invade. And of course,
Yeah.
we all know what happened after that. So anyway, fast forward, we went over, we recovered a bunch of folks from the east, from everybody everywhere from Kiev to Kharkiv, Mariupol, all that region, and brought them to a safe location in the west. And then we evacuated quite a few folks, women and children, out to Poland, and got them out of harm's way. And what we saw going through there was, one, a lot of disorganization from really both sides. Ukrainians, because they really weren't that prepared. Again, that whole, it's never going to happen to me attitude.
Right.
And then, shit went sideways. But, you got to give it to the Ukrainian people that they actually stood up. A lot of Ukrainians actually that were overseas, were in other countries, came back specifically to fight for their country. And I appreciate that. I really do. And the Ukrainians, they could have easily just rolled over and said, screw it, we're going to let the Russians take over. No, but they didn't. They reached down, grabbed the doodads, and actually wanted to defend their country, because that's their country. It's not Russians. It's the Ukrainians. So I appreciated that. But again, initially it was a lot of little disorganization, nobody knowing who was, especially when you're riding around in some of the areas that we were in. And of course, we were doing some other things, helping some folks, as we do, plus our other job. But you come to a checkpoint, you didn't know if it was Ukrainians or if it was Spetsnaz that rolled in and set up one real quick. And Ukrainians didn't know if we were Spetsnaz or Alpha, that group that came in and is causing some issues in the rear. So there's a lot of close fratricide that was happening. Luckily, we had some contacts within the Ukrainian government that worked with us, and we worked with them. We helped them do some things, and then they helped us, give us access around the country. Of course, we had some weapons with us as well that they gave us. But on the Russian side, it was my opinion, and seeing it firsthand, and being there for almost 6 weeks, they were, one, poorly trained, two, equipment sucks, not maintained. They pretty much, they were a paper tiger almost, but a paper tiger that has artillery. So that does add to. Their logistics planning was horrible. It appeared that they had no idea what they're doing when it comes to logistics. I mean, for goodness sake, you have a mechanized military that you're basically, or mechanized force that's moving forward. Well, shit, mechanized means fuel, food, bullets, repair parts, and all in vehicles that supports those other vehicles. It wasn't there. They just sent the guys out, and I guess their assumption was that the Ukrainians are just going to roll over. They should do a big show of force. They hit a couple of strategic targets, and they think that everybody's going to give up. Well, they didn't, and they started blooding their nose, and which is good. Now let's fast forward a little bit with the whole U.S. response. My personal opinion, I think it was shit. And I've talked to quite a few congressmen and folks that are close friends of mine, and I told them the truth, what was actually seen on the ground. All this equipment's going over there. Less than 10% is making it to the folks on the ground. Less than 10%.
Where is it, John? Is it all staged like in Poland and stuff?
Some of it, I'm not privy to that side of the house.
Right.
My assumption is, it probably went to some ASPs, ammo supply points, within Poland, within Romania, initially, and then it has to be dispersed from those locations to Ukraine, and it'll probably go to some different locations, and it would stay there, and it had to be dispersed supposedly to the units or to the end user. Well, that wasn't happening, or what they'll do is, like one of the shipments of javelins. Well, there's two components to a javelin. There's the rocket, the missile, and then what's called a clue system, which is a computerized system that locks onto it that tells the missile where the target is and how to do either a front end hit, either a top hit or a side hit. Well, they would send the missiles, but there would be no clue system. So it'd be like, hey, we're going to send you a car. Oh, by the way, it doesn't have a transmission. Well, fuck me. It doesn't work that way. So those things were happening. Or they'd ship some equipment and it would go to a warehouse. Well, Russians, and it'll stay in one warehouse and everybody knew what that warehouse was. Next thing you know, you got cruise missiles flying in there and destroying it. Yeah. Again, it goes back to, how about this? How about contract us, the company that does this? We take it from the ASP in the second country, Poland or Romania, take it to the end user, not only take it to the end user, but also train them how to use the equipment. So we know that the equipment actually got there. But what happens is it goes to a central location and the Ukrainians, control it. Well, you got to understand, I don't want to bash those folks, but it's the second most corrupt country on the planet.
Right.
So this one guy gets this equipment. He's going to figure out who he's going to disperse it to, and what's his cut. So that's reality on the ground. That's what happens all over the world. It's just, but there's a lot more predominant, and it's heartbreaking knowing that folks are doing that when their country is at risk of being taken over. So those are some of the things that I saw. And again, less than 10% of the equipment actually getting to the end user, and the end user is the one that actually knows shit needs it. I mean, right now, they're talking between 22 being killed per day, Ukrainians in combat, and over 100 per day of being wounded, 100 to 200. So that's a war of attrition. So Russia has a bunch of folks that they can push to the fight. Ukrainians not so much. So, let's get the equipment to these guys. Let's give some damn advisors, whether it's a PMC or a private military company or administration, let the Green Berets do what they do. Get in there and accompany, advise, and assist. And that will help out a lot. Because what I see on both sides, Ukrainian and the lack of understanding combined operations. Example would be how to utilize my Air Force in conjunction with my conventional forces, in conjunction with my special operations forces, in conjunction with my resistance forces, all working together for an end state. But you have to have leadership that understands how to employ each one of those. And the leadership has to understand the true capabilities and limitations of each one of those forces, so you don't overcommit them or you don't undercommit them. So that's a big, paradigm thing that you're looking at. But it is doable. It is. We just got to support it. If you're going to support them, fucking support them. Right. Give them the equipment. Make sure it gets to the end user. 1, 2. Give them some advisors because they're hurting right now. Their special operations are actually Ukrainian. They're actually having to read warfare books and FMs and PMs to figure out how to do this. They're figuring it out as they go. Again, it's not from a lack of having the heart and the balls to get out there and do the business. It's just the experience and the lack of. So I congratulate them for, and I've seen it firsthand. I was with them. They're great folks, and they will get out there and they will get after it. They will. They just need some assistance, some advising, and some equipment, and they can turn the table.
What are you seeing in the PMC world as far as, are they being utilized? Is it like a hurry up and wait a lot of times? Is it
a lot of what
is there resistance? Obviously, you guys can do stuff that if they don't want U.S. personnel from an agency or obviously military on there, obviously you guys are a great option for them. But it sounds like even that's kind of like all over the place.
Yeah, it is. A lot of times it's a dirty word until you actually need them.
Yeah.
If there's a gap, let's say, for instance, U.S. does not want to commit U.S. special operations. And so they don't, which is fine. But there's a gap. There's still a gap that needs to be filled. You can fill it with a PMC, the right PMC, not one that's after just for money. You have to have a moral compass. You have to do what's right. Money, my company, we're not driven by money. We're driven by doing the right thing and helping folks. Now we got to pay. We got to get paid, and we got to pay the guys because it's a high risk thing. It is. The folks we hire, aren't your normal folks. You know, they're not guys that actually go do these type jobs. We do them quite a bit. The guys we hire are dudes that didn't spend 4 or 5 years in the military and get out and brag about the rest of life. We hire guys that are former, you know, special operations folks that were in leadership positions, that understand how combined operations works, understand second and third order effects of everything we do. And we always side and we always stay within the legal parameters of what the U.S. Laws are. I have friends that are in different government agencies that I consult with to go, hey, we've been asked to do this. Are we good? Are we good with the U.S.? Are we good with, you know, the Bureau? If we guys come back, make sure that we're not going to be prosecuted for somebody to drum up war crimes or something like that, which we're definitely not going to do. But we're going to, you know, but yeah, a PMC is an option. But it has to be an option that is carefully looked at to make sure it's the right PMC that's doing the right thing. And there's a lot of them out there that are money driven, that bring over guys that really aren't this SMEs, subject matter experts, in doing this type of stuff. I only hire guys that I can fire and forget. That I can go, hey, here's your task, here's your right and left limit, go do great things.
Right.
Because if I got to babysit this guy and I think that he's going to do something that's going to jeopardize the whole operation, which it could be national security issues, both the foreign nation or our nation. You know, you got to look at all the big picture. Just can't because he's a buddy and only spent 4 years and, you know, whatever unit he was in. No, I have to have guys that are mature, that came in from leadership positions, that understand the big picture, not just shooting. That's a skill level 1 task. Basic tactics, that's a skill level 1 task. I look for guys that are skill level 4 tasks. They understand special activities, understand intelligence, understand special operations, understand basic infantry stuff, because that's the foundation. So yeah, PMC is a good option, but it has to be the right PMC.
Right. No, and that's key. And the interesting thing too, it only got a little bit of press, but I remember talking to you, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, we were talking about this, but on the Russian side of things, they're using PMCs as well. And they don't have the parameters that you just talked about. They're pretty brutal in their execution of the job.
Yeah. Wagner Group, again, is an arm of the Russian government. So Russia can say, hey, we do not have Russian military there, but you know, Wagner Group works for the Russian government. I mean, they're in a lot of countries. They're in all over Africa, in Libya. I know for certain because I've been to all these places and actually, you know, seen them. You know, I was tasked to see them sometimes. And they're in Ukraine, and again, they pull from their military or their Spetsnaz and throw them in these positions with their PMC. So yeah, they don't follow the same rules as we follow,
right,
as far as moral compass goes.
Well, and that goes to an interesting thing that you know, before we started, we were talking. You said something that was really interesting. Obviously, yes, the Russian military, there's logistics problems. There's, you know, I know shortages of medical supplies, all sorts of issues, and the fact that a lot of them are conscripts. But the one thing I thought was interesting was, you know, you said, yeah, despite all those things, the one thing they do have going for them is they have the intent and they are killers. Meaning it's not, you know, the idea of just everybody being some scared conscript. Now they're comfortable with violence and they're comfortable with what we consider atrocities, you know, for the most part. And that there's a lot to be said for that from the intent side of things, you know, meaning, okay, they might not be as well trained, but you can't dismiss the fact that you've got a lot of people that have no problem pulling the trigger.
Yeah, a lot of your conscripts there, they were not your true killers. Their true killers were their Spetsnaz guys and some of their line infantry guys. But some of those line infantry guys were conscripts. But again, they're almost put in category, you know, thugs, you know, untrained, but had a mindset that they don't mind getting after it and killing folks. Right. But they're, you know, it was, and that's what we just saw on the ground. And same thing applies here. It's, you know, the first thing is a mindset. You know, you got to have the mindset to do the business, not just wear pretty uniform or wear the 40-pound badge. That doesn't make you immediately a superhero. It comes, you got to have that mindset of doing the business when it comes time to do the business. But then you take that guy, and our old world, that's why we have selection. That's why we have, you're mentally tested, physically tested, blah, blah, blah. And then we go, okay, yeah, you're suited for this type of job. But everybody else goes away. So when you get those guys, now you train them. Do you know they have the mindset? They have the physical ability. They're self-starter type guy folks. You take them, now you train them. Now you put in money into them, dump, $20 million per dude into them. And then at the end of it, now you got a dude that no shit's going to get after it. Yeah, he has no problem basically whacking folks. But again, our selection and our middle evaluation phase, you're also evaluating, he can be a killer, but I can't have him just be a psychopath.
Right.
We're weeding those guys out too, because they'll slide in too. But you got to find those guys, because we don't want a part of that shit. You got to be the right guy for the right job. And even in the military as a whole, we don't need psychopaths. We need killers, because that's their job. Right. But you got to be able to have compassion behind it. You can't just, it's not just, each situation doesn't require me whacking folks. Now some do, and when it comes down to it, we have no problem doing business. It's just work for us. But you can't be a psychopath. And then you get training, and then you become a no shit, well-trained killer, to be not to be cliche or something cool, because there's nothing cool about it. It's just work at the end of the day. But yeah, I think a lot of the folks that on the Russian side, seeing it firsthand in a few different countries, they do have that mindset. It's the culture of the country too. They're hard people. They really are. We look back at World War II. I mean, holy shit, Stalingrad, all those places, they give two shits about the people, to be honest with you. They'll put them in the meat grinder. They do not care. They care more about hardware than they do humans. We care about humans more than hardware, because human, he'll figure it out, but he's got to have the mindset.
Yeah. I guess from a 50,000 foot view, are we learning how, you and I were talking about the Russian military before this, but we must be learning the true capabilities of what they're able to do in a lot of different avenues right now.
Yeah, and they do the same with us. Right. I'm sure in the last 20 years watching Afghanistan and our operations and stuff like that, they're analyzing how we do business. They're seeing whether we are a paper tiger or a real tiger. And we do the same thing with them. Afghanistan, when they were, Russians were in Afghanistan, we were, doing an analysis on their true capability. And China, but China hasn't been tested.
Right.
That's a big difference. You can have all the dudes in the world and have all this equipment. If your equipment is shit, it's still shit at the end of the day. But what have you done lately? Yeah. And that's what I believe, in my opinion. Of course, I'm biased. I'm American military compared to everybody else's. When's the last time, we have been in conflict since 1776. There hasn't been 20 years in our whole history that we haven't been in some type of conflict. Right. Experience is a big thing. Both, how to do combined operations, how to plan, how to strategize, all that stuff. The Russians, they've been watching us. Now we're watching them now, how they're doing business. In my opinion, yeah, they're a paper tiger, but they're a paper tiger with nukes and a lot of damn artillery. So that does make them dangerous, and a little unpredictable. Their intelligence service, I think that, in my opinion, I think their military is very inadequate, to be honest with you. But I think their intelligence service isn't that great, but they got the balls. Right. They will actually send their agents out and poison you. Yeah. They get two shits. They will do that. And that makes them dangerous, because they're a little unpredictable. But as a military, I don't think, in my opinion, that they're a very capable military. But again, they're military with nukes and a lot of artillery.
Well, what's really interesting too is all of the NATO countries that are in the EU. And they're really, especially I was talking to some German special forces guys, and they were telling me just the horrific status of their military. They can't even put a battalion together right now. They need the Finns to be able to do a battalion.
Yep.
You know, I think it's a wake up call for everybody, because I don't think anybody really thought this was going to happen.
Yep.
You know, wishful thinking. And it's been really, to me, it's been shocking to see that the EU actually kind of, you know, mobilized a little bit. Now, not that they're very effective, but I think it was truly a wake up call on defense budgets and you know, who they depend on and everything. And also the fact that, you know, that the Russians have no problem turning off pipelines. They have no problem, you know, cyber attacks or anything. They'll use any means, you know, necessary right now. And it's actually kind of worked for them.
Yeah. Now, you know, the Russians, in my opinion, I mean, they like I said, they don't care about their people. Beyond, they don't. So they will cut their nose to spite their face. They will do something against you that they'll know it'll affect their people, but they're going to do it. You know, because that's the mindset. They're hard people. They really are. Now, you know, back to, you know, a lot of the NATO countries. Yeah. You know, a lot of your NATO countries, you know, they got way into the woke stuff, and that really went into their defense. I mean, I know some folks on the German side. You know, I can't, you know, divulge who it is, but you know, I was approached by some of them, and they were like, "Hey, I want to just talk to you because we want to talk to a bunch of real alpha males." He goes, "Look, you guys killed all of our real men in the 40s. Yeah. Said, we've been so woke, it is unbelievable. Our military is almost hollow. Yeah, there are some good guys, but like you said, they can't put them all together. Because once you put them all together, now the government's going, oh my God, well, you didn't use right pronouns, so we're going to disband the unit." It's like, oh my God, you know, this is a wake-up call because shit got real. You know, a country goes in a cycle, in my, you know, philosophy, you know, which, you know, who the fuck am I? But, you know, hard times create strong men. It's true. Yeah. Strong men will create good times. Good times will create weak men, and weak men will create hard times. And if you think about it, all those cycles, if you look at the holistic approach, a big 50,000 foot view, you can see it happen. Look at Germany. Look at us now.
Yeah.
When last time America suffered? Last time America suffered was probably in the 50s, in the 40s, when we had that war, World War II, and the Great Depression, all that stuff. We haven't really suffered since then. I mean, that's now you see the effects of it, or, you know, we make up problems.
Right.
And that affects the military. You know, and they try to do the woke bullshit, put in the military. I mean, the military is there for one thing only, to export violence. When diplomacy fails, the military goes to work to export violence. Their job is to kill other human beings to protect these human beings. That's their only job. So where we went off the rails of what the military is supposed to do, I have no fucking clue. But I mean, leave the military alone. Take those group of people that have that mindset, train them well. Again, we can't have psychopaths there, but have trained killers that's their job, and have them standing by, and take the woke bullshit out, because it doesn't work there at all. I never saw, all my 30 plus years in 60 something countries that I've worked in, I have never seen a woke person standing beside me. I never had the phone call or somebody screaming, "Hey, come help me." And I never had the woke person come. Never mind. I never seen the woke person running to the fight, ever. Never seen the woke person breaching the door, going in and rescuing somebody. Never seen the woke person going out there on the battlefield, bullets flying, and you dragging some of these folks back that you don't even know who they are. Never saw them. Yeah. But they're back in a safe space, they're back in a safe area that they can sit there and raise hell and make up fucking problems. So that's my rant for today. So
no, but it is solid, because it you know, people, I hear some people dismissing it, saying, "Oh, it's not a big deal." No, it's a huge deal. If you the video the Navy put out about the pronouns was ridiculous, and the reason being is the military actually already took care of pronouns and genders. We have ranks, and they're across the board, male, female, it doesn't matter. You address each other that way, everything's fair. Everything's addressed for. It absolutely kills and divides people in the military. And what's really I mean, there's no other way to say it. The weak take advantage of these ridiculous requirements, and it's a way they get a little bit of power and a little bit of admin power, and that's because, like you said, we haven't had a real threat in so long. We play games with stuff that's way too important to play games with.
Yeah.
And I'm just surprised that how far it got into the officer corps, and how far it got into the even the special operations community is getting affected by it. I know they had to change things down at basic underwater demolition school, and how they write the SEAL creed and everything. And it's crazy, but it does have an effect on people, and it also causes hesitation. Guys worried about, shit, if I go do this, or if I do it this way, am I going to be prosecuted? Am I going to be, brought up on charges because I called somebody the wrong name or something?
Yeah. Let's worry about stuff that actually we need to worry about. The military, they be focused on one thing.
Yeah, they got to be really good at killing and breaking things.
Exactly. That is their job.
Yeah.
And you have certain elements within the military that does, civil affairs, stuff like that. Let them be good at that job. But the actual guys that the combat arms folks, leave them the fuck alone. Let them do their job. Train them to be the most elite professional. There's a difference. The elite professional organization on the planet, which we do have, but it can get better. Quit adding to your woke bullshit into the military, because you're just going to, it's not going to turn out well.
I think I didn't phrase it this way when I wrote this, but I wrote a big article years ago. And I think the start of all of this, the start of wokeness, or whatever you want to call it, was when we changed from the Department of War to the Department of Defense. And, when you say war, then exactly what you're employing, and what your job is and where you're going. When you say defense, this is where you get all this really esoteric, weird missions for the military that really they're not capable. They're not trained to do effectively. And it's very difficult to be that way. But if you keep the military very focused on their job, like you said, and they know exactly what they're doing, they're here to make sure that we maintain the lifestyle that we have and the protection that we have and everything. In order to do that, you have to have a very effective force to do that. And what's interesting is, like you said, you look at something, a less effective military, say like the Russians and everything, but they do have that intent base, where they, at least their people at enough of a level, have no problem, in a, we would consider probably a very unlawful way, being thuggish and getting out there and doing it. That's who we have to go fight. We have to fight people like that. And other parts, and I know you've been to other parts of the world where it's all tribal, it's all, just basically warlords that you're dealing with, and you can't fight that with a woke approach.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And one, a lot of people I've dealt with, now and in the past, like I said, they're warlords, and they're from a completely different era. And they will perceive nice as weakness, and they will take advantage of it. That's just human nature. But all these folks, they're at the bare level of human nature. They are at the foundation of humanity. It's fight or flight syndrome for them every damn day. It's hard for them to think past today because they don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So they're going to try to take everything they can today, versus, okay, I'm gonna give you $1 a day for the rest of your life, or you're going to take $5 a day. Well, they'll take $5 a day. But that's that mindset, and they apply that to everything. So you go to Africa, you go to some of the, like Afghanistan, some of the other places, that's their lifestyle. So when you go in there and you try to be nice, you have to give them respect, and they will give you respect, but you got to earn the respect by being hard but fair. You can't go in there and be a psychopath and destroy everything. You can't, because that's not the right thing. That's not, you got to be human. But you got to go and go, hey, here's what this is what I will do for you. This is what I expect from you. And you go in there with that attitude, you're going to get respect. You can make lifelong friends. You really are, which I have. But you go in there with, with the whole woke stuff, and, want to blame everybody by themselves, they're going to take advantage of you, and they always will, whether it's business or whether it's, these type of operations.
Yeah. And it's across the board. I mean, I remember I was interviewing Sammy Gravano, the underboss for John Gotti. And he talked about when they took over, they had to do exactly, just very basic, thug level, everything. But the first thing they had to do He goes, yeah, we went out, we took out a lot of people. He goes, we had to let them know that we were in charge. He goes, then once we had that and they understood that we backed everything up with credible threat of violence, he said, then we could start building the relationships and the businesses and stuff. And he goes, and then he goes, there's relatively little violence up until the end of his reign at that point, because they did everything up front. They got everybody on board, and, and it actually ran, rather smoothly. And it's just another level. It's just human nature. It's really what you do. But if you go in weak like that, we've just seen the results, I mean, it's just pathetic. What did you think? I'll go one more thing, and then I want to get into, training and talk about that. But what was your opinion of, I mean, I'm sure I know what it is, but the Afghan pullout, that was just that you've worked with locals all your life. How much damage did we do to ourselves by pulling out of there and leaving all the people that we worked with, leaving all the equipment, and just that shit show that was the withdrawal? I mean,
yep, that was an absolute shit show. I was involved with some of the recovery, basically evacuation of some of our partner forces and some of our friends and stuff. And a lot of my other buddies were as well. That was the wrong way to do business. Holy shit. If you could ever go, okay, let me put a plan together of how not to do this, that was what happened. I mean, you had the Kabul airport, your only basically source of mass evacuations, single runway. Come on, really? And you're just allowing the Taliban to completely take over, and you're trying to do deals with them, which at that point you almost have to. But it should have never got to that point. Right. I have my theories behind what I would have done, but that's just my theories, in my opinion. But the way it happened was actually absolutely ridiculous. We left a lot of folks behind. In fact, today, 4 hours ago, I get an email from Abdul, one of my Terps back in Afghanistan, back in 2008, one of my many trips I was over there, hits me up. Hey, boss, look, I'll read it. I'll read it again. Let me pull it up real quick. Abdul, right there it is. He says, hey, boss, I hope this email finds you well. Sorry to bother you again. I am still in Kabul. Security situation is getting worse day by day, especially for guys like us. Boss, if you can find a way through the agencies still evacuating from Kabul, will be highly appreciated. So this is today. This is actually 8:20 a.m. here, Mountain Time. So it's still going on. These are still our brothers that we're still trying to get out. Now we're having to get them out some other covert methods of evacuation, but we're still having to do it. And these are guys that we just left behind. And everybody's like, oh, the Taliban's not that bad. Yeah, they're not that bad when you're in the United States.
Yeah.
Now, be an Afghani that worked with special operations, and they find out. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
We already know what's going to happen. We know that they're going to basically kill your family. They're going to rape your women, probably in front of you. They're going to disembowel them. They're going to cut their heads off, and then you're last. That's what's going to happen. That's the reality. That is the reality. But people in a safe environment, it's like, it just happened. It doesn't happen. But yeah, because you're in a safe country and you don't care. I do care. These were my brothers. These are guys that they were. I'm sometimes closer to my partner force guys that I've worked with because they risked their lives with me. They went and did bad things with bad people with me. Yeah. I know their families. We actually become very, very close friends with these guys. We really do. And just leave them behind. That is a very, very hard pill to swallow. We still try to help them out to try to get them out. And today, again, it just didn't go away. It's still fucking going on. Some of our brothers are still back there with their families, wondering if today is a day they get to knock on the door and the guys in the black turbans show the fuck up.
Man, I can't. That's just it. I hear some of the comments made by very comfortable people living in very comfortable areas, and it's just they have no concept. And my concern is from pulling back. it's on the ground and actually working with people like you did. I can't imagine what that feels like to actually have real people. But then if you just pull back from a 50,000 foot view and you go, okay, next time we go into a country, a partner country, and we need to, pull from the locals, and we need partner forces, who would want to work with us? I mean, they'd see what's, I mean, risking your family, risking everything with the idea they're just going to leave eventually, and look what they did. Look what they did to those guys.
It's crazy. It's heartbreaking. It really is. I mean, like I said, these are our brothers. Green Berets, that's our kind of specialty, is working by, with, and through local indigenous and building rapport with them. I mean, they literally are our brothers, and we left them. And it's not the boys on the ground or the girls on the ground that actually go. It's the politics of it. Right. And most of your politicians are folks that grew up in a probably gated community, never had a job outside politics. They went from college, probably law school, and went straight into politics. And they spent 40 years in politics. And they have no concept, one, what true Americans really are, who they are, or two, whose other people are that's around the planet. They don't have a concept. They don't. And then, they look down their nose from the ivory tower from the elites up there. And it's absolutely ridiculous. There are consequences for your decisions. It ripples on down. It's a ripple effect. And we're the people on the ground that actually I'm not suffering, but my brothers are, and my sisters that we left behind, that we promised them. I mean, but you promised them that you were going to help them. And we did, but we did it as much as we could do. A lot of us went over and assisted trying to get these guys out. And we still are. Yeah. And it's hard.
You guys raised money to get over there on your own and everything. This wasn't government supported. Yeah. That's the crazy thing. I can't believe how many veterans literally dropped everything and got over there to try to start helping people. I mean, it's horrific. I just feel like there've been so many betrayals of the troops, on our end. That's how we left, which was crazy. Do you see, what's your current thoughts on the state of the military as far as what you're seeing, with guys that are still in? I mean, you went through it a much different time under much different conditions where it was all about the job. You've been in a world that you've been able to make sure it's all about the job. You still got to deal with politics, but not at the weird behavior and woke level. What are you hearing from the guys that are still in? I mean, most of my friends are I know two guys. In fact, we have actually a mutual guy that we know, that left a very good, prestigious last job 2 years early, just because he said, I can't do this. I can't execute this anymore. I can't. They're telling me I have to say this to the troops, and I'm not doing it.
It's hard. I know. You take guys, with that same mindset that we are, and you give them the responsibility, especially in a leadership position. So let's say, for instance, you got guys that are in special operations in a leadership position. They got all these young special operators that they're responsible for, not only their health and well-being, but their training and employment. So it's wrong, or it goes against every grain of your body that you're getting dictated from higher to push down to the boys. And it's got to be hard for them. It really does. Now, I'm not there anymore. And right. Like I said, we do have a lot of our friends, but see, a lot of my guys are retired or starting to retire now. Yeah. My younger guys that I had were, they're all almost retirement age or are retired. So I really don't have that big of a snapshot of what's going on the ground, within the units and stuff. But I can just imagine it has got to be a very difficult situation for the mid-level senior leadership and the junior leadership to deal with, because it goes against every grain in their body because at the end of the day, they're still in the military. Right. You have to execute what your hire has put out. You have to. It's just part of being it's part of being in the military. It's not a democracy in the military. But it's got to be hard for them. It really does, and I feel for them.
Well, that's a good transition into back here in the U.S. We've seen unprecedented level of gun sales. More guns sold in the last 2 years than I think, I think Biden outdid Obama on forcing gun sales. But we got a lot of people that they're buying them out of fear, and they really don't. I don't think it's because I think the hardest thing for people when it comes to training is not that they don't want to train. I don't believe that. It's they have no idea where to start. They get so confused, and especially, you and I have talked many times about social media. In some ways, it's great, meaning it got exposure to a lot of good information, but it also made it easy for a lot of substandard people to get very famous and kind of give an illusion of training, especially when it comes to the military stuff. I mean, you had a taste of that, when you're out here in Vegas, of just how quickly, somebody can become insta famous. And yet a lot of what they're putting out is really substandard. And I think that's why when we put together, you finally had enough time to put together Split Second Shooter, that idea. Can you just kind of talk about the fact that a lot of people, they went out, they bought a firearm, and they want to start getting training, and they're looking for a trainer. And of course, they don't know what they're looking at. And whoever looks the most, tactical, or does the coolest stuff, quote unquote, is probably going to get some unnecessary interest.
Yeah. That depends on what you're using the firearm for. Let's say, for instance, you're getting into USPSA. You're going to be a competitive shooter. Well, go find a grandmaster class shooter that, like JJ Ricasa. He's a good dude. Folks like that, go seek those guys out, because they're going to teach you how to be safe, how to be fast, and how to be accurate. It doesn't teach you the foundation, but it's geared toward competitive shooting. Now, if you want to get into personal security, blah, 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 that's a different animal. That's a little different mindset. Some of the principles, the principles still apply to shooting, but your end state is a little different. The mindset of a competitive shooter is he's trying to game the stage, come up with his course of action, how he's going to shoot that stage and be the most effective and efficient as he possibly can to reduce his time and to have good hits. So he has a little different mindset versus the guy that's going to be using it for self-defense or personal defense. He's looking at a little different way. He's looking at, how am I protecting my house, my family, whether I'm in the house, whether I'm in at a grocery store, whether I'm in a damn restaurant, whether I'm in my vehicle, whatever. So there's a big difference. You still have to go the foundation of shooting. You still have to get the foundation. Then how you apply the foundation is you start getting into the tactical, not really the tactical side. A lot of it's just common sense. But if you've never been exposed to it, you just don't know. It's not that you're ignorant. It's not that you're stupid. You're just ignorant. Ignorant in the fact that you haven't been exposed to it. Go find somebody who actually has a real background, that just didn't spend 10 minutes to dress like a commando. He spent 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and continues to do that. Find that guy, because he's going to, in our world, shooting and basic tactics is a skill level 1 task. Find that guy that has a skill level 4 task. Yeah. And he can really get you to understand the end state and how to get there with those basic fundamentals or that skill level 1 task. But you got to be proficient, and you got to learn that skill level 1 task, which is basic shooting and basic tactics. Now, I don't teach civilian tactics at all. I barely teach law enforcement tactics. There's certain organizations that I'll work with. There's a lot that I won't. I mean, I just won't. That's another subject. That's another little sore spot for me right now with those organizations. Just because you dress up doesn't mean that, and you give the public a false sense of security that you're a superhero when it's time to fucking call and you don't perform. Yeah. I have a real hard time with that right now. But anyway, back to what we're talking about. Go find that guy that has that background that is rooted in the basic foundation, because the fundamentals never change. The foundation, you got to have that strong foundation. Don't try to go from basically trying to figure out how to line your sights to trying to do, a 3-day vehicle CQB course. That, I mean, holy shit. People will sex things up so bad. Now I'm just like, how can they take something that we teach in 1 hour or 2 hours and turn it into 3 days?
Yeah.
There's not that much to talk about, unless these folks have no idea basic tactics, or what cover concealment is, what true cover, what true concealment is, vehicle stuff. I mean, goodness, get out of the vehicle. Get out of the vehicle. It's going to be a bullet magnet. Get away from it. Use it as cover for just a split second. Figure out where the hell you're going to go and make a decision and act. Those type things. Not, oh, I got this, where I'm going to hold my pistol. Oh my God. Let's just give them the basic foundation of basic shooting initially. And then if they're going to do it for self-defense purposes, teach them what they need to know on the basic fundamentals and foundation of basic tactics of fire maneuver. It's kind of hard for me to grasp, a law enforcement officer teaching fire maneuver. I mean, fire maneuver comes from a 13-week infantry school.
Right.
You don't go through that. No, there's no foundation law enforcement for tactics ever at all.
Well, and you bring up a really good point there, because, one of the, I noticed a lot of the trainers that get a little intimidated when somebody like yourself is there, is because they realize exactly what you just said. And what they try to say is that, if you train with one of these spec ops guys, he goes, or tier 1 guys, or he goes, yeah, they're going to teach you stuff that's just going to get you in trouble. Like you're going to be in trouble with self-defense. Have I seen some guys from those communities probably, not cover things as completely? Yeah, I have seen a very rare though. What I've seen much more of is fucking phenomenal training that is useful to you in the way you're going to use your tool. Meaning, if you're going to go through your house, which most of us are, if that's what we're here for, so who do you want taking you through that? Who do you want? Somebody that's done it, 1,000 times, taught it to multiple groups all the time, and none of that ever changes, and that's nothing against the law enforcement people. I got a lot of great friends in SWAT teams and stuff like that. But what I see is this blanket statement that I see a lot of, gun commandos say, oh, well, you don't want to go with the military guys because they don't know anything about the law. What I've seen is the spec ops people that I've worked with, like yourself, your tactics alone incorporate all the necessary things that people learn. You make it very clear that you're responsible for every round that comes out of that firearm, and you guys are very clear about how you would ever deploy it, use it, and be there, far more than I've seen in a lot of other groups, and also used in a practical method, the way the end user is probably going to face, the situation if they ever need to use their gun.
Yeah, a lot of it's experience, and if you don't have it, you can't give it. So that's where seeking guys out that have no shit experience, a lot of it, because it's kind of hard if you are let's say I'm a pilot, which I am. Let's say you're a pilot and you want to get training on the next aircraft that's going to be a step above. Am I going to get a guy that's going to teach me how to fly? If I'm trying to go to a twin engine, am I going to have a guy that has flown single engine his whole career to teach me? Fuck no. I'm getting a guy that that was 3 levels above that to teach me that, because he understands all of it. So same thing applies. If a guy's going to go seek out some, not tactical, but some common sense, keeping yourself alive tactics, go seek that guy out that has that skill level 3, skill level 4 task, that just didn't spend a couple of years in the military or law enforcement, and then get out and brag about the rest of his life and just it's a YouTube Insta famous guy. It's go get that guy that actually has taught that to the next generation of his organization, because he understands that basic foundation. Because nothing changes at the end of the day. It's just basic fundamentals, and basic fundamentals to most of us skill level 3, skill level 4 guys might be out of reach for some of the other guys teaching it, because they really haven't had the experience to pull that. And it's a lot of it's not their fault, because they just didn't have the experience. They're just trying to make a buck, I guess, and they're just trying to make a name for them. That's why they get on Instagram and the social media stuff. which is fine. They're just trying, but don't oversell something that you really don't have the experience in. Stay.
I remember I remember that when you taught the vehicle course, we were done. I think we were done just over 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And we were laughing because, there's another group that was out there pretty well known, and they had their 3-day, course that, and you covered it clearer and much more useful. People got it right away. That's the other thing that I think people need to understand. The other thing I've found, especially with you, is you really make it very clear and understandable, meaning you don't use a lot of unnecessary jargon. You make sure they get it. And I think that goes to the fact that you've had to work with, partner forces all these years. And so you don't, it's not like you're getting the cream of the crop all the time. So you have to make sure that you're clear with your language, which I think is incredibly important when you're teaching people the fundamentals of firearms.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you just cover, you get down to their level. You don't try to sex it up with big words. You keep it, because at the end of the day, your job is to transfer information to that person. If that, at the end of the day, he really doesn't understand what the hell you said, because you try to, you show up with a thesaurus, you try to make yourself look bigger than you really are. Just be normal. Just put the information out. Try to get him to understand exactly, and not only teach the actual technique, but explain to him the reason why. And that's a lot of it. Don't be the instructor, be the trainer. Right. And have a different philosophy. The instructor, he regurgitates what was told to him. He never was a subject matter expert. He just was taught by this guy. And he's going to regurgitate what was in the book. Have that guy that has those 20 plus 30 years of experience doing that job. Let him go, hey, this is the reason why I'm teaching this. And here's an example of. This is an example of if you do it this way. This is an example of you do it that way. And even there's not really just one way to do things. We give them a lot of different techniques. Go, hey, this might work here, but we're going to give you a lot of tools to put in your toolbox. It's up to you to pull whatever tool is that you need to get the job done. And that's another thing. Again, that comes from experience, because if you have little amount of experience, you only have a few tools. So for instance, let's look at an operation, hypothetically. So you've been tasked to stand up at a little small counterterrorism force in some little country. You go down, your task is to go kill, capture a list of dudes, or arrest a list of dudes that are bad actors. You have just a couple of you, gringos or advisors, with about 25, 30 of the indigenous guys. But all the bad guys are in an area that if you go there, you got to remember the end state. If you go there, you're going to get in a fight.
Right.
You're going to get in a fight. You're probably going to get a couple of guys killed or a couple of guys shot just to get that end state. Or smarter and harder. I recruit a source. He knows that guy. He coaxes him to get in a vehicle, drive him out. And we just set a VI, vehicle interdiction. We just snatch him out of the vehicle. End state's met. Yeah. And I reduced the risk to my guys. Those are tools for the toolbox. If you're a guy that spent this much time in an organization, and you just know skill level and task, what aircraft I'm getting on, what's my breach point, and I know who I'm killing and capturing. If you only know those things, more than likely you're just going to go, hey, let's load up. We know where his house is. Let's do a GRG real quick. We're going to, here's our routes in, routes out. Where's our medevac point, blah, blah, blah. You're going to set that up, and you're going to be doing everything. And then you're going to roll in there, and you're going to breach that door, and you get in there, and you get that guy, and then you come back out, and then you're in a 2-hour gunfight trying to get the fuck out of the area. And then you get 2 or 3 guys shot.
Yeah.
That comes from experience, because that's the only experience you had. But if you have experience of this much, now you go, you know what? I can still make my same end state, which is rolling this guy up, but I don't have to do the risk. Make sense?
Yeah.
The experience it will help, whether it's teaching, whether it's operations, whatever.
Yeah, and that was great. And when we put together, in fact, we got a lot of people, on the channel that obviously have the product you and I did. Split second shooter that you put together, which is just, it's just the solid product, and people like that. But the other thing that I've been talking about is, and your tempo is still pretty busy, but we are going to schedule, the opportunity for people to train with you. And I think that's really It's something that as soon as we get the dates, I'll make sure you grab them because
Yeah.
it'll fill up fast. But what I think I get out of every time I interact with you is you always make sure people have usable information right away, stuff they can work on right away, and that I've just the people that you've trained over. I mean, you've taken females that literally had no training whatsoever.
Mhm.
And it was amazing to see how quickly you could get them up to speed to where they were, they were doing things. And it's just because, your direction and your instruction is so clear, but also really immersed in the fundamentals. And I think that's what a lot of people lose. A lot of them see unrealistic demonstrations, thinking somehow that translates to being very competent with your firearm.
Mhm.
And really it's just kind of a like in martial arts we see it like in these ridiculous demos people do that have no reality to real life.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of that on Instagram, and obviously because you're trying to capture eyeballs, and you're trying to
Sure.
go in. But the danger part about this is that person that just bought the firearm and they want it for their home defense,
Mhm.
and they don't know what to do. If they go that route, they could be wasting not only a lot of time, but also possibly training themselves incorrectly.
Sure. And like say, for instance, Glad brought that up with the personal firearm, home defense. Well, not, what we would do is we would teach them, the fundamentals of firearms, and it would teach them basic fundamentals of, fire maneuver, what concealment is, what cover is, blah, blah. And then we'll take them into their house and go do like a, a security assessment and a, like a emergency action plan type scenario. Okay, if something happens, where's your safe room? You thought about this. This is what goes in a safe room. This is how you occupy a safe room. This is what the protocol is for the safe room. This is who I call first. And this is what we're going to do. And you start tasking different stuff. Wife, you're going to do X, Y, and Z. This is your first thing you're doing. Husband, you're doing this. Children, you got to go herd the cats and get them to safety too. And then not only you're going to go do that, your chronological order, because you got to have certain things that got to happen before the other. Is the aftermath. Again, we're always trying to think second, third order effects. If I do this, this is the effects of it. And how am I going to deal with that? And I got to understand how I am going to deal with it. So what I would do is I teach the basic fundamentals of shooting, the basic fundamentals of some basic tactics just to keep you safe, how to move from point A to point B safely, and how to recover your children. But then if you do have a deadly force confrontation with some knucklehead, this is what we're going to do. Again, next protocol. This is what I'm going to do first. This is who I'm going to call. This is what I'm going to say. And bring a law enforcement officer in that understands, what he is going to go through. Because, law enforcement have a lot, they got a tough job. They really do. And I have utmost respect for law enforcement officers. And because their job, it's a hard job. It really is, because they got to make decisions and they got to act, and they better act. They don't do what they did in Texas. That was absolutely horrible. And I have an absolute fucking hard on for that bullshit. But anyway, that's another speech. But get that law enforcement officer to go, hey, a seasoned one, to go, hey, this is what I expect when I come. Because you got to understand, I don't know what's going on. I just have been told from the dispatcher, and I just have a real quick picture of the situation. This is what I would like to see from you guys to keep everything safe. And then once we get to that point, then we bring a lawyer in and go, okay, this is what you say. Again, second and third order effects. You might be cleared legally, but now let's look at civilly and have that whole thing again. Just so again, if you're going to carry a firearm for self-defense, you got to understand the whole thing. The second and third order effects. You carry a firearm for self-defense, you better be ready to get after it. If you're going to carry it, you better be ready to get after it. But you have to understand where and when it's applicable. You have to understand what no shit deadly force really is. What is a real situation that I need to draw this gun and get to work. I'm not drawing my gun to brandish it. I'm not going to keep it open. My God, I'm not going to let everybody know I got a gun. They don't need to know. The only person that needs to know I have a gun is a dude that I'm about to kill because he is risking my life, my family's life, or somebody else's. That's the only dude that needs to know that I got a gun. And he's going to know in about that damn fast. And other than that TV screen's going to go blank. And then now I got to deal with the second, third order effects of what I just did, which might be legal, but I got to look at the civil liability issues as well. And that's why I would bring in a lawyer to do that, just to go, hey, this is, if this happens, this is what you need to say, and this is how you need to say it. You're legally, you're fine. You did it, you did everything right. But yeah, thinking the second order effects, not just a guy that's just going to teach just how to line the sights and pull a trigger without disturbing sights. I mean, let's look at the whole spec. Let's look at the whole reason you're carrying a gun.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's really what I wanted people to hear is that aspect of it. And, you know, people have been asking ever since you did the training series. All I keep asking is, when can I train with John? Is John going to have any courses? And, you know, what's interesting is I think people maybe thought it was hype or something at first, where I was saying, no, this is not somebody who's available. He's, you know, literally you came in, I think 18 hours prior to shooting that, you're coming off of an event that you were doing, you know, overseas and doing it. And that's really what I like. So when I can grab time, you know, you and I have been trying to coordinate for the last year or so. Yeah. But when you can grab time, it's definitely worth it, because it's a unique experience. You have experience that very few people in the community. I know a lot of people in the community and stuff, and they all say the same thing when they talk about you. Like you truly are in it, you know, the whole time, and no bullshit, and no hype, nothing. It's what you do. It is your job. And so the fact that you get on site, you know, you get somebody who literally probably was just, you know, within the last month doing something, with years and years of other experience too. It's a unique training opportunity. So you and I will coordinate, we'll grab some dates, and then we'll post them. Anything else like you're seeing the current status of the country, like I mean, we had 2 Supreme Court rulings that just came back to back, you know, one on, you know, the Kerry situation in New York. And then obviously we got Roe v. Wade, and we still got all this political divide that we've got going on. I do think we're probably going to see, especially with the upcoming elections, we're probably going to see some more unrest. I think people just need to understand that it's better to be prepared than, you know, not. And that doesn't mean you're learning to use your firearm because you want to. Yeah. It's just good prevention. And you know, going to a course like this really minimizes the chance. That's the other thing people don't understand. You're really good at minimizing when they'd ever even think of using their firearm, when the appropriate time would be. And that's as important as teaching people how to properly use it. Because if it's avoidable, man, get the hell out of there. You know, it's just that easy.
Is detect, deter, and avoid. I mean, I'm going to attack it, I'm going to deter it, and I'm going to avoid it. Because the last thing I want to do is actually pull this gun and kill another human being, if I don't have to. But if it comes down to that, oh, I'm on it. I'm going to burn his ass to protect me, my family, and third party. And I'm going to have a plan. You know, even at home, I mean, you're responsible for your own security. Quit fucking everybody mindset of, oh, I got the police. They're going to show up after the fact. And even right now, we've already seen proven many, many times when they show up, what are they actually going to do?
Yeah, it's really a sad state.
It is. But it's reality. Yeah. You know, everybody, you know, they don't know violence. Yeah. I understand violence. I see no shit violence. Yeah. What they see in the States is not violence. You know, one dude, really, that's not that violent. Well, I'm telling you, it could be for you at that particular moment. But what I'm talking about is the Mongolian horde showing up, VVIDs going off at your police station, a propane truck being parked in front of your house, detonating, you know, showing up with fucking 4 dudes just doing a vehicle ambush. You know, within 2 seconds, your vehicle's a Swiss cheese. Ain't a damn thing you can do about it. That's violence.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So you, as an individual human being, an American that has a legal Marines right to keep and bear arms, then exercise it, but do it in the right way. Don't rely on other people for your protection. Protect your own self and protect your own family. Come up with a plan. Have a plan that's a real plan, not some crazy plan. If you don't know, I understand. You can just have that experience. Well, reach out to the right people to come and go, hey, or go to a course that actually has, you know, people that understand this and can help you develop a home security plan. That's a real one. And you know, how you're going to interact with law enforcement when they do show up, and how you're going to interact with the legal system when you have to go that route as well. But have a plan, whether it's your vehicle, you know, be aware of your surroundings, whether it's, you know, you can get on social media, see what's going on. Like right now, I wouldn't be over at the Capitol in DC. You're just asking for problems.
Yeah.
Why the fuck would I want to go there if I'm going to try to detect, deter, and avoid? If I'm going to try to avoid problems, why do I want to go to the problem? If literally that's what I'm trying to do. If you want to go to get in the middle of it, well, then fine, go get in the middle of it. But that's not what you want to do, then don't go. Be aware. If you got a riot going on over, like say Vegas or something, they're going, people are going ape shit in Vegas. Find out where the hell that's at. Don't go there. Very simple. Oh, I got to go there to get some, to get a loaf of bread. Well, could I do without a loaf of bread for a day to possibly prevent getting into a situation I really don't want to be in? Yeah, things like that. Having, a little storage of food. I mean, my family, we got a year's worth of food at our house. Stored. And that's just in case shit goes sideways. I can rely on myself. Don't rely on other people. Rely on yourself. Educate yourself. Have situational awareness. This is basic stuff. And there's no high speed, there's no black magic, there's no pie in the sky, how high speed and how tactical I am. It's just basic stuff. You just got to do it.
Dude, I think that is the perfect place to end this. That's useful information, and I will provide all of in the show notes contact information for not only the training series, but also where you can look for dates. And we will announce that as soon as John and I can, nail them down. We'll get there. But hey, thanks so much for your time. It's really great. Just, especially all the updated information from what's going on in the European theater. That was really, really great for everybody. And look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Yeah, man. Take care.
All right, brother. Hey, thanks for watching. If you do like this content, make sure that you have subscribed to the YouTube channel. But also, if you want to see everything that I put out, everything uncensored, straightforward, not squelched by big tech, also join our Rumble channel. It's all down in the show notes. That way you get everything that I put out. Unfortunately, big tech has put a crunch on me being able to get this information to you. That's why I created the alternative channel with Rumble. Also, if you are ready to start training right away, please go to timlarkin.com, sign up for our free masterclass, and start putting together a plan that will minimize the chance of violence coming into your life and your family's life. Thanks again for watching, and please support the channel.